Hi, my name is Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel. And it's the end of spring, it's just the beginning of summer actually, so it's time for a finance update, and I'm doing these every season now. I used to do them every month, but I think that was a bit much. So this is the spring update and I'm pretty pleased actually. I won't, I'm doing it off the top of my head, so I won't get the figures exactly right, but I'll put the figures up in overlays, and I'll put the graphs up as well as I'm talking. So basically, I think we've harvested this year so far about £3,200 worth of veg, and that's a dramatic improvement over last year. It's almost double what we harvested last year, and that's been a conscious decision of mine. I realised by looking at the weather data for where we live that really March and April are pretty fabulous growing months. The light levels are reasonably good. It's actually quite sunny, and we don't get a huge amount of rain, and so with a little bit of protection, so that's either fleece or covers on my cold frames, cold frame tops or little hoop tunnels, that I could grow a lot of stuff if only I prepared to grow it early in the season. So that's what I did, and so it's been really fabulous. In fact, in quite a few of the weeks during spring, early spring in fact, we were harvesting as much in that week as we were harvesting in summer, in fact peak summer, so August. I've been really pleased with that, and so it's basically worked out. Now the harvest level for May isn't dramatically different because pretty much everything's growing in May regardless of what you do anyway, so you don't really need to be paying much attention to get great harvest in May. But in order to get great harvest in March and April, you do need to do a little bit of extra planning, and you see that in my growing guides as we come closer to those respective months. I'm at 3,200, it's pretty good. So I'll compare that with my 2018 figures. Now then, spending. So spending's been a little bit higher than I'd probably like. But my objective really, when I started the allotments, and the reason I do these finance updates is because I really wanted to make sure that this was a zero cost hobby. We worked out our finances when I retired so that we could live within our means with our sort of existing lifestyle. And then I took on the allotment, and I thought, well, it can't cost me money. It's got to be cost neutral. So that was my objective initially, and that's why I started doing the tracking. And I was pretty confident that would turn out to be the case, and so I do the tracking in the simplest possible way. I basically just count the harvest containers. So we use these standard 2-litre harvest containers for most things, obviously not like bulk harvest for potatoes and onions and stuff, but for all the day-to-day harvests that we do, we just harvest into the same container size. And a couple of years ago I worked out what the average value of one of those containers is over a couple of months, and so now I just count those containers, so it's really, really simple. But I think we spent about £700 so far this year. Now, a good 50-60% of that are one-time investments. So those are, plants like blueberry bushes, strawberry plants, lots of trees, containers, all of those sorts of things. And then there's a fair chunk of that that's compost, and compost is pretty key for me. I mean, not obviously improves the quality of the soil, but we put a thick mulch of compost down on the beds to reduce the weeding, and it's one thing I don't like about gardening, it's weeding, so anything I can do to reduce that I will do. So that's pretty much it. I might pop up some pictures of the sort of stuff that we bought, a new wheelbarrow, and lots of stuff. It adds up actually, and it is worth keeping a track of how much you spend. But compost and seeds are probably the biggest recurring investment. And kindly, Jerry from Grow Seed he's offered to provide me lots of seeds for free, so that's really nice of him, and that's reduced that a little bit. So what else? So profit. So the value of the harvest is not the same as the profit that we make, and obviously that's because profit is value minus cost, but actually it's not exactly that for us, because we harvest a huge amount that we gift to our extended family and friends, and so obviously we're gifting that, so we're not making any profit from that, not in financial terms anyway. Obviously it has a big benefit to us in terms of our kind of psychological profit, because it makes us feel really good and makes them feel really good, so it's a win-win for everybody. But so we also track our savings, so we track the amount of the harvest that we actually eat ourselves, so that's Debbie and I, Jennie, John and Robin, so 5 of us, and we eat about half of what we harvest and the rest we gift, but we do receive some gifts in return, and there's no obligation there, just gifts in both directions, but we do get eggs gifted to us, so that's really lovely, and occasionally we get meals out and things like that, and so I include those gifts in the savings. So the savings are the direct savings off our cost of living, and I think I might have to just check this. So the food bill savings are about £1,900 so far this year, and I think that yields us a profit of substantially, probably about £1,200, something like that, and that's pretty good for this time of year. Now, I mean, some people might look at that and think, well, that's not a very significant harvest value, just like £3,200 or something, and a profit of only £1,200 for all the work you put in. But we do very little work on the allotments, and that's important to note. I mean, I count probably the time we harvest sometimes is work. The weather's not very good. I'm tired. It's the end of the day, and 2-hour harvest is not what I want to be doing. So sometimes that is real work. It's not something I want to do, but it's something that I do because I want to eat. And sometimes like crawling around in a brassica bed, weeding it under the nets, and pulling out old potatoes, which is what I'm going to do on Friday. I'm not really, to be honest, looking forward to doing that, so I count that as work. But I think we probably only do 2 hours work, 2 or 3 hours work or something like that on the allotments. The rest of it is pure pleasure, and that's roughly about 16 hours a week in total. So of that 16 hours of work, maybe 2 hours is actually, of those 16 hours of activity on the allotments, time spent, maybe only 2 hours of that is actual work. So that's not a bad return for 2 hours work. But more importantly is profit. It's guilt-free profit. So it allows me to spend money on the allotment without thinking, I'm eating into my savings, or I could have bought this other thing, instead I could have decorated the house or bought some new carpets or something with that money. No, I take that money and I put it in a separate bank account, and I say that is allotment money. It's pure profit that is derived from the allotment, and the intent is that that money eventually goes back into gardening, and so it might eventually go back into the back garden at home rather than the allotment, but some of it will go into the allotment because I need a new shed, probably sometime this year or early next year. The polytunnel that I'm sitting in now will eventually need replacing. The coal frames will eventually rot and need replacing. They'll need new covers in a couple of years' time. So, I need to put some of that money aside, but at the moment it's pure profit, so costs have been taken off that. So, I think that, it's really demonstrated to me that 2 things, I guess. One is that, if you're not, reasonably careful, you can actually end up spending more on an allotment than you're harvesting. But by paying attention to it, and that's what I'm doing, just paying attention to it, not taking it particularly seriously, but just looking at it each month, see how I'm getting on. You can actually make a significant saving on your food bill, and you can really relax and spend money without any guilt. And one of the nice things I think is that I can put money into reducing my workload, making everything just that little bit easier and nicer on the allotments. I can spend money on extending the season, because we're self-sufficient. Extending the season really makes a huge difference to us, and I just clarify that because I'm easily throw this self-sufficient line out. Obviously we don't grow our own grain, we don't raise our own cattle, or anything like that. No, we're just self-sufficient in veg and seasonal fruit. We do some preserving of fruit as well. We dehydrate, and we can, and we freeze. So we have a substantial proportion of our fruit comes off the allotment. Pretty much all of our veg comes off the allotment. And so that makes a big difference, because when you can grow things out of season. So we had potatoes at the beginning of April this year. I'm hoping for potatoes at the beginning before the end of March next year. New potatoes, of course. Then that's really great. People really appreciate that when you can get courgettes at the beginning of May. All these sorts of things. It's really wonderful. And so I can invest in doing those sorts of things, just enriching our diet. And we like to grow a lot of different things, because obviously it's no fun being self-sufficient if all you're eating is potatoes and onions all the time. So we grow 250 different varieties of things. That means we have an incredibly rich and varied diet. We can invest in that, and that's really nice as well. Yeah, so the final thing I'll mention is that when you're making a decent profit like this, it just means you can be really generous, and I really like that. I really like the fact that I can grow loads more plants than I need, and then give them to people who might have might have had failures with their seedlings, or just forgot to put the brassicas in at the right time, or got a new greenhouse and then not realised, or not had a chance to prepare. With all of their tomato plants or whatever it is. So that's just another really nice spin-off, and obviously we can be generous with food as well, and that's what we try to do. So so that's the finance update. I don't know whether people actually find this interesting, so it's nice if I do get a few comments and feedback about the sorts of things that maybe people would like to see in these finance updates, or not see in these finance updates, or not see them at all. But I quite like doing them, because it provides a nice kind of milestones for me as the season progresses, just to see how I'm doing, and it helps me. I do like a bit of kind of challenge in the way that I garden, and I'm at the point now where I'm not, there's not that many challenges. I'm growing everything that we need to eat. I'm growing a huge range of different things. So I don't want to grow any more, because harvesting is already a big chunk of time for us. All of our close friends and family, who eat a lot of fruit and veg, we're already supplying all those people with food. So growing more isn't really that much of an issue for me. So I'm at the point now where I'm really looking to grow higher quality food. It's pretty good, the stuff I grow at the moment, but you can always improve on that. And I am looking for always to get a richer diet for more of the year. And you'll see actually when I put the monthly harvest values up, you'll see that I'm not, still not harvesting as much in winter as I am in spring, as I am in summer. And of course, so I could always harvest more in winter, because people really love their veggies in winter, so I'll still be carried on trying to do that. We could harvest a little bit more in early spring, so still a bit of improvement to be done there. And of course we could extend the seasons with more crops. I'll actually just pop up my little database where I track my first harvest dates, and so you can see there the first dates that we harvested the various different plants. I didn't do it last year, so what you've not got on there is anything that I planted last year and then harvested this year. So obviously cabbages and things like that don't appear. But anything that I planted this year and I harvested this year, they'll appear on that database. So I'll just pop that up. But yeah, so that's my objective really, is I can keep on trying to improve things, keep on reducing my workload, particularly reducing the amount of sort of non-productive effort that I'm doing. Keep on, increase the amount that we harvest at the front end of the season and the back end of the season, and increase the range of food that we harvest all the way through the year, but particularly, at the back end and the early parts of the season, so the whole season extension thing. And we will do a little bit more preserving this year as well. So we're growing a lot more stuff for preserving, but we pretty much only eat fresh wherever we can. So we hardly freeze anything, because there's just, to be honest, there's no comparison between frozen food and fresh food picked straight off the plots. So yep, there we go. That's the end of this. Let's get on with some gardening, and I'll see you soon.